in the gap of a massive paradigm shift in business, government, and society, locally and globally. We've been here for a while, and now it is front and center. The gap is so chaotic. The current global health crisis we are experiencing is challenging us individually and the complex world of running a business in unprecedented ways. The gap challenges us to release the old order in favor of a new order that creates new levels of resilience and aligns purpose, profit, and impact. The old order values profit over purpose, silos over connection, and individual responsibility. The new order values purposeful leadership, global connections, and shared responsibility. That shared responsibility is human rights. It used to be the role of governments and nonprofits to address global crimes and deep-rooted humanitarian crises, like modern slavery, that affects, according to our best estimates, at least 40.3 million people on this planet, and probably more. What so many of us don't realize is that more than half are in forced labor. Forced labor touches everything we use: our food, our clothes, and our cell phones. It's a hidden, complex crime that's hard to detect and feels far away, as if it doesn't touch us. But it does. It touches our global supply chains near and far that are currently being taxed in new ways. Right now, each one of us has been equalized by this humanitarian crisis, a hidden, complex global health issue, a fundamental human right. And human rights as a business issue has become front and center. The dialogue around human rights has been moving from the altruistic to the practical. In 2011, the UN published its guiding principles that brought business into the conversation by creating a protect, respect, and remedy framework. Governments are to protect human rights, businesses are to respect them, and victims are to have remedies. Following the guiding principles, the UN created its Sustainable Development Goals, which provide a framework to address some of our most pressing issues. Separately, the role of business and its purpose has been evolving. On the one end, we have B corporations, which are companies that intentionally build profit and impact into their DNA. Think of Patagonia, Athleta, and Danone, just to name a few. These corporations, along with countless others, are leading the way of purposeful leadership because they have embedded purpose into their DNA and have allowed themselves to be able to take care of their employees in a time of unprecedented uncertainty. On the other end, the business case for more traditional or for-profit only companies to proactively address environmental, social, and governance, or ESG criteria, has been growing. Investors are increasingly looking at these non-financial criteria to evaluate the behavior, impact, and resiliency of companies. And when we talk about impact, we're looking at both the positive and negative impacts of a business on its employees, suppliers, customers, communities, the environment, and other stakeholders. ESG-minded companies and B corporations recognize an interconnectedness of business with these stakeholders. And with $30 trillion going towards ESG-related investments, however defined, frameworks are being developed to measure ESG. Companies that prioritize ESG and impacts will necessarily have to make trade-offs as business risks are considered. There's not going to be a perfect solution. And as companies create their solutions, they must also rethink how they incentivize employees to drive that external impact. We reward what we value. Our corporate scandals give us important lessons on this front. In these scandals, a big factor in encouraging behavior that tipped the cultures to the unethical was the compensation programs and what was incentivized. Sometimes it doesn't matter what a company's mission and value statements are if the compensation programs are driving a different culture because of the incentives being measured. But right now, as we are in this gap with our survival instincts in high gear, businesses will be scored and challenged on how they navigated this crisis for their employees and how they rebuild and recover to allow resilience and the protection of human rights. When they rebuild to drive profitability and revisit compensation programs, it will be important to not only reward profitability goals, but to reward the collective to drive impact, and not just environmental impact, but social impact, human rights impacts. It's definitely not without complexity or skepticism, but it challenges convention and fosters a new order. If we objectively and fairly draw on the lessons and look to assess and drive a company's impact, especially human rights and embedding them into business practices, we bridge the gap between profit and purpose and create value and resiliency. What is exciting is that many companies are starting to include human rights metrics in their compensation programs. Right now, they reward protection of their own employees' safe working conditions and the creation of opportunities for women and people of color by achieving diversity and inclusion goals. They also create accountability. When businesses are able to refocus, move out of survival mode, and into creating new levels of resiliency, they should include understanding and remediating its impacts on human rights. When they do, employees can be empowered, given a sense of purpose, and culture is enhanced. It's simply the right thing to do. Most importantly, every human being should be able to walk through this short life with dignity and respect, and we have a shared responsibility in this endeavor. Thank you. I'm Ameena Majid, and I'm a speaker who dares.